Now, Somalian President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud says his Eritrean counterpart has declared support for Somalia's sovereignty amid tensions with Ethiopia over a controversial sea access deal. Now, Eritrean leader Isaias Afwerki recently voiced his stance in a meeting with the Somali president. Tensions were sparked at the beginning of last week after Ethiopia signed a deal with the self-declared Republic of Somaliland. The agreement would give Ethiopia commercial and military access to a port in the breakaway region. Somalia called the deal an act of aggression, considering Somaliland a part of its territory and vowed to defend its sovereignty. Somaliland is not recognized as independent by any other country or major global organization. Now, for more on this, let's bring in Arise East Africa correspondent Mark Bichachi, who joins me live from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Mark, good to see you. A lot is happening with this back and forth about recognition. But again, quickly, let's have a sense of what these new developments are.
Well, the first thing is about the chopper accident and then the subsequent time of 5 or 6 people from the particular chopper. We do not have exact details because the Somali government is also not quite sure whether it's 5 or 6 people who've been taken hostage. Now, these people have been taken hostage in central Somalia, in a region that has been under Al-Shabaab control for the last years. Now, if you look closely at the statements, both from the military and from different organizations in the region, there is little hope by way of saying whether these people will actually be rescued, because the wording has been very careful to ensure that it does not speak to an emergency rescue effort, because those who have spoken, including various military commanders, have said that it is extremely difficult for them to access central Somalia, which has been predominantly in the control of Al-Shabaab. And some go as to say that that particular area has locals who support this particular stronghold of the Al-Shabaab.
But again, now let's talk about the composition, because first, this is a helicopter composed carrying people who were meant to give Medicaid to those distressed. So has the UN specifically given the nationalities of those who were on board the chopper?
Well, the specific details are hard to find. Some say that there was one Somali national and all the 5 or 6 were international workers. Others say that the total number was 9, having about 1 Somali and the others were international. But neither Al-Shabaab nor the government has fully said what the exact figure is. So, well, it is indeed a guessing game, just as it is a guessing game on the other story you mentioned as concerned Ethiopia, Eritrea and Somaliland on the part of their port deal. We must remember that the Somali military is vastly underwhelming of being able to deal with their territory and the issues that they bedevil them, whether that be terrorism or the issue of piracy. So we are talking about a government that does not have full control and has been forced to give statements that give the impression of control. But I can tell you from sources on the ground, it is unlikely that neither in the Somaliland issue nor in this helicopter issue will the government of Somalia be able to act decisively in order to create a difference in the situation.
Well, you know, Mark, it is just only recently the continent as well as the Horn of Africa just got a little bit of a respite in terms of the conflict between Ethiopia and the Tigrayans. Now, looking at what's brewing now between the recognition, talking about Somalia and Ethiopia, and also putting Eritrea in perspective, is there any kind of threat to renewed hostility around that axis?
Well, there is definitely a threat if you take the words of Prime Minister Abiy and many of his compatriots in the Ethiopian government, where they have spoken clearly that they need to have port access, whether it takes action or not. So for a fact, there is a threat of conflict in the region, but also there is a threat of conflict between Somaliland and the government of Somalia, given that Somaliland has been self-governing. It is willing to give 50 years concession to the Ethiopians to access its port, and they expect that they will be recognized by the Ethiopians in order to be able to continue their struggle toward statehood. So this is a vastly volatile situation, and the fact is that the Somali government does not have the wherewithal, the military might, to be able to deal with an Ethiopian incursion, as well as deal with the bedeviling issue of Al-Shabaab. So for a fact, the president of Somalia finds himself at a loss, underscored by the fact that many of the AMISOM forces, that is the UN-backed forces that included Kenya, other regional forces that have established peace in Mogadishu and Jubaland and other places within Somalia, are within the space where they're expected to withdraw from Somalia in a short space. So the president of Somalia does not have many cards to play. He does not have enough options to. This is going to be a difficult year and a difficult situation. And unfortunately, for those who have been kidnapped by Al-Shabaab, it is quite difficult to see whether the Somali government will be able to rescue them.
Mark, quickly before I let you go, the 8-member IGAD leadership, are they having any conversation anytime soon concerning developments around that region?
Well, the IGAD team met, of course, recently to first discuss the issue of Sudan and having the two generals talk. Unfortunately, this fell through very quickly, and we met recently appear in Kenya in the presence of President William Ruto, much to the chagrin of Al Burhan, who's the general of the Sudan army. Therefore, the IGAD situation really seems quite tense. They seem to be unable to actually follow through on their peacekeeping ideals, and they seem to have more back than they have bite. So this situation, as it develops, will be more difficult for IGAD, given that Ethiopia is a central member of IGAD, as well as the African Union, which is headquartered in Ethiopia. So the diplomatic issues around Africa, bearing in mind that South Sudan is unstable, Congo, which recently joined, is threatening war with Rwanda, as well as many other regional conflicts, notwithstanding the M23 rebel force, is quite the problem for IGAD and indeed the East community at large. So there seems to be no respite quite in sight, but we have to keep hope alive and believe that the efforts that are being put and the efforts that will be put will be able to stem the issues of instability within both the IGAD region and the wider Eastern African region.
Bichachi, asante.